The glass doors of the Sterling Tower shattered as a frantic man in a stained janitor's jumpsuit dove inside, barely dodging a swarm of paparazzi. Arthur Sterling pressed his back against the cold marble wall, his heart hammering against his ribs. Just 10 minutes ago, he was a billionaire CEO. Now, he was a fugitive in his own building, hiding from the very people he paid to protect him. If they saw his face, the secret, and his chance at real love would be over. Arthur Sterling had everything. At 32, he was the king of green tech, a billionaire who lived in a penthouse that touched the clouds. But his life felt empty. Every woman he met seemed to be auditioning for the role of Mrs. Billionaire, rather than wanting to know Arthur, the man who loved jazz and burnt toast. After a disastrous date, where a supermodel spent 2 hours talking about his stock options, Arthur had enough. He called his head of security, Marcus. "I'm going undercover," Arthur announced, staring at his reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window. "Sir?" Marcus asked, confused. "The new headquarters opens tomorrow. Everyone expects a CEO in a $5,000 suit. Instead, they're getting a night shift cleaner named Artie. I want to see who people are when they think I'm invisible." The transformation was drastic. He traded his designer watches for a plastic Casio, and his tailored suits for a navy blue jumpsuit with Artie stitched over the heart. He moved into a small, cramped apartment across town, leaving his luxury cars behind. On his first night, the reality hit him. The corporate world looked different from the bottom. Managers who were polite to Mr. Sterling were cruel to Artie. "Hey, floor boy, you missed a spot near the trash," barked Julian, a mid-level VP Arthur had promoted just last month. Julian didn't even look at Arthur's face, he just pointed at a spilled coffee stain. Arthur gritted his teeth, gripped his mop, and cleaned. He felt a flash of hot anger, but he suppressed it. He was learning. By 2 a.m., the office was a ghost town, except for the architectural wing. There, under a single glowing lamp, sat a woman surrounded by blueprints and empty coffee cups. This was Maya. She was an intern, but she worked with the focus of a veteran. Arthur approached her desk cautiously, pushing his cleaning cart. He expected to be ignored or treated like furniture. Instead, Maya looked up and smiled. It wasn't a networking smile. It was tired, genuine, and kind. "Rough night?" she asked, her voice soft in the quiet office. Arthur blinked, startled. "Just part of the job, I guess. You're working late." "I have to," Maya sighed, pushing a stray hair behind her ear. "The CEO, Sterling, is a genius, but they say he's ruthless. If this project isn't perfect, my whole department is on the chopping block. I can't let my team down." Arthur felt a pang of guilt. He was the one they were afraid of. He looked at her blueprints. Even to his expert eye, her designs for the new eco-park were brilliant. "I think the CEO would be lucky to have someone who cares this much," Arthur said quietly. Maya laughed, a sound that made Arthur's heart skip a beat. "Thanks, Artie. I'm Maya. Do you want half a sandwich? I'm never going to finish this, and you look like you've been on your feet for hours." In that moment, sitting on a plastic crate and sharing a stale turkey sandwich with an intern, the billionaire felt more at home than he ever had in his penthouse. But the secret was a ticking time bomb. As the days turned into weeks, Arthur's life became a blur of exhaustion and excitement. By day, he was the untouchable titan of industry, making multi-million-dollar decisions behind closed doors. By night, he was Artie, the man who listened to Maya's dreams while he polished the windows. He found himself looking forward to 11 p.m. more than any board meeting. Maya wasn't just kind, she was a fighter. She told him about her father's failing health and how this internship was her only way to pay the medical bills. "You know, Artie," she said one night, leaning back in her chair. "You're a great listener. Most guys just want to talk about their cars or their status. You actually care." Arthur felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to tell her everything. He wanted to write a check that would solve all her problems in a second. But he knew that if he did, the magic would vanish. She would see him as a savior, not a soulmate. The tension escalated when Arthur discovered a dark secret within his own company. While reviewing files as Mr. Sterling, he saw that Julian, the VP who had been so rude to him, was embezzling funds from Maya's project. Julian was purposely making the project look like a failure so he could pocket the budget. Arthur was furious. He wanted to fire Julian on the spot. But Julian was clever. He had covered his tracks well. If Arthur acted now, Julian would simply delete the evidence and Maya would still lose her job. Arthur had to play the long game. Then came the first major, close call. It was a Tuesday night. Arthur was mopping the executive hallway when he heard footsteps. It was Julian, accompanied by 2 security guards. Julian looked stressed and angry. "I don't care what time it is," Julian snapped into his phone. "I need the Sterling encryption keys. If the CEO finds out about the budget gap, we're all dead." Julian stopped right in front of Arthur. Arthur lowered his head, pulling his cap down low. "You! Janitor!" Julian yelled. "Move that bucket. You're blocking the path to the main server room." Arthur moved the bucket, but as he did, his expensive, custom-made smartphone, the one he used for CEO business, slipped out of his pocket. It hit the floor with a loud thud. Julian looked down. The screen lit up with a notification. "Message from the Prime Minister. Meeting confirmed." Julian's eyes widened. He looked at the phone, then at the man in the dirty jumpsuit. "Where did a cockroach like you get a phone like this?" Julian sneered, reaching down to grab it. Arthur's heart raced. If Julian saw the home screen, which featured a photo of Arthur at a global summit, the game was over. Just as Julian's fingers touched the glass, Maya appeared at the end of the hall. "Artie, there you are," she called out, running over. "The break room microwave is smoking. I think it's going to blow." The distraction worked. Julian, terrified of a fire drill or any attention to the floor, scoffed and kicked the phone toward Arthur. "Pick up your trash and get out of my sight," Julian barked before hurrying off toward his office. Maya reached Arthur, breathless. "Is it really smoking?" Arthur whispered, picking up his phone and hiding it. "No," Maya winked, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "But I saw him cornering you. That guy is a bully. I didn't want him giving you a hard time." Arthur looked at her, truly seeing her. She had protected the janitor against a powerful VP. She was willing to risk her own reputation for a man she thought had nothing. "Thank you, Maya," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Don't mention it," she smiled. "But Artie, why do you have a phone that costs more than my car?" Arthur froze. The suspicion had begun. Arthur managed to laugh off the phone incident, claiming he found it in the lost and found and was trying to figure out who owned it. Maya accepted the answer, but the air between them had changed. There was a growing intensity, a feeling that they were both standing on the edge of a cliff. The next morning, back in his CEO office, Arthur was no longer the gentle Artie. He was a predator. He spent hours digging through Julian's digital footprint, finding the trail of stolen money. But Julian was one step ahead. Sensing the CEO was closing in, Julian decided to find a scapegoat. That night, Arthur arrived at the office in his jumpsuit, eager to see Maya. But when he reached her desk, she wasn't there. Her blueprints were scattered, and her computer was gone. He found her in the stairwell, her face buried in her hands, sobbing. "Maya, what happened?" Arthur asked, dropping his mop and rushing to her side. "It's over, Artie," she choked out through tears. "Julian, he called security. He accused me of leaking confidential designs to our competitors. He showed them proof. Emails sent from my account that I never wrote." Arthur felt a cold rage settle in his chest. "He's lying, Maya. We can prove it." "How?" she cried, looking up at him. "He's a vice president. I'm an intern. The CEO is coming tomorrow for the grand opening gala, and Julian told me if I'm seen anywhere near this building, he'll have me arrested. I've lost everything. My career, my dad's insurance, it's all gone." Arthur wanted to pull her into his arms and tell her that he owned the building, the air she breathed, and the very ground Julian stood on. But he knew a confession now would look like another lie. He had to show her, not tell her. "Trust me," Arthur said, grabbing her hands. "Don't leave. Show up to the gala tomorrow night. Wear the best dress you own and walk in there like you own the place." "Artie, I can't," she whispered. "I'll be arrested." "I have a friend in security," Arthur lied, his voice firm and commanding. "He'll get you in. I promise you, by the end of that night, the truth will come out. Do you trust me?" Maya looked into his eyes. She saw a strength there that didn't belong to a janitor. She saw the eyes of a leader. "I trust you," she whispered. The next day was a whirlwind of chaos. Arthur had to coordinate the biggest event in the company's history, while simultaneously working with a private investigator to finalize the evidence against Julian. He didn't sleep. He didn't eat. He was fueled by a singular, burning desire for justice. As the sun set, the Sterling Tower transformed. Red carpets were rolled out. Diamonds flashed under the chandeliers. The world's elite gathered to toast to the brilliant Arthur Sterling. In the shadows of the utility closet, Arthur took off his blue jumpsuit for the last time. He showered away the scent of floor wax and stepped into a bespoke midnight blue tuxedo. He adjusted his cufflinks, the same ones he had hidden from Julian just days before. He looked in the mirror. Artie was gone. The billionaire was back. But as he looked at his reflection, he realized he wasn't the same man who started this bet. He didn't just want to be loved, he wanted to be a man worth loving. Outside, the music began to play. Julian was on the floor, glass of champagne in hand, laughing with the board members, thinking he had won. And in the lobby, a nervous Maya arrived, her heart hammering, looking for the janitor who had promised her a miracle. The ballroom was a sea of gold and silk. Julian stood near the stage, gloating to the board of directors. "It was a shame about that intern, Maya," he lied smoothly. "But I caught her just in time. The company is safe in my hands." Suddenly, the room went silent. Maya had entered. She looked breathtaking in a simple emerald dress, but her face was pale. Before Julian could summon security to throw her out, the lights dimmed, and a spotlight hit the main stage. The announcer's voice boomed, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our founder and CEO, Mr. Arthur Sterling." Maya's breath hitched. She watched as a man stepped out from the wings. He was tall, powerful, and dressed in a suit that cost more than her education. But as he stepped into the light, her heart stopped. It was him. The jawline, the eyes, the way he tilted his head. It was Artie. A murmur of shock rippled through the crowd as Arthur walked straight to the microphone. He didn't look at the cameras. He looked directly at Maya, who was trembling in the third row. "Tonight was supposed to be about technology," Arthur began, his voice echoing with authority. "But instead, let's talk about character. Over the last month, I've been working among you, not as your CEO, but as a janitor named Artie. The room gasped. Julian's face turned a ghostly shade of gray. I saw the best of this company, Arthur continued, and I saw the worst. I saw a brilliant young woman, Maya, work until her fingers bled to save a project she believed in. And I saw a man she trusted, Vice President Julian, try to destroy her life to cover up his own theft. Arthur signaled to the giant screen behind him. Instantly, files appeared. Julian's private bank transfers, deleted emails, and a video of Julian mocking the janitor while admitting to the fraud. Julian, Arthur said, his voice like ice. Security is waiting for you outside. You're fired. And the police are already on their way. As Julian was dragged out in handcuffs, the room erupted in applause. But Arthur wasn't finished. He stepped down from the stage and walked through the crowd. The socialites parted like the Red Sea. He stopped right in front of Maya. The silence was heavy. Maya looked at him, tears streaming down her face. "You lied to me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "All those nights, the sandwiches, the stories. Was any of it real?" Arthur took her hand, ignoring the flashes of 100 cameras. "The money isn't real, Maya. The suit isn't real. But the man who shared that sandwich with you, that's the only real version of me there is. I didn't find what I was looking for in a boardroom. I found it in the stairwell with you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn object, the plastic Casio watch he had worn as Artie. "I'm still just Artie, if you'll have me." Maya looked at the watch, then at the billionaire, and finally saw the man she had fallen for. She didn't care about the tower or the billions. She saw the heart of the person who had listened when no one else would. She leaned in and kissed him, a private moment in front of the whole world. Arthur Sterling had built an empire, but it took a mop and a bucket to find his home. True love doesn't care about the clothes you wear or the zeros in your bank account. It sees the soul underneath.